was complimenting the directors when I came in. This is just a first-class room. It really, really is. I mean, I traveled the country and I see everything from pink walls with like those little puffy things like covering the entire wall to lovely, gorgeous walls like this, and everything's just organized. I have a very high D personality, so when I see things that are lined up, I'm like, that is sharp. All the bags match and everything's just lined up. It's perfect. You guys know that. Thank you so much for letting me be here tonight. And I got to spend some time with the Red Jackets when I first arrived and showed some of the jewelry. And it's not about me being here. It's about sparkly things. That's really what it is. I mean, you bring women diamonds, and it doesn't matter what I can stand up here and say. You remember the 18 selfies they took with the diamonds. All that really matters. But I am so glad to be here, and we just celebrate our 51st year at Mary Kay. Isn't that a huge, huge accomplishment? Everyone go to seminar. Loved it. It was a great event. Coming off the 50th anniversary, we were wondering what we were going to do for the 51st, but I think we really still set the bar again. So they keep on doing it. And next year, of course, we're out of the arena. We're going to be in the big hall, so it's going to be a different feel. That was the last seminar in the main arena. So we're going to have a nice, fresh, brand new hall for everyone next year. So it's going to be absolutely, of course, fantastic. As Marie was saying, when you see me not here at work, I am doing triathlons, and that's true. I've had a very, very busy month doing that. A couple weeks ago in September, I was up in Mont-Tremblant, Canada, and I was competing in the Half Ironman World Championship for my age group and finished 21st American. So that was a really big accomplishment, and I PR'd my time by 27 minutes. Oh my God! That distance is a 1.2 mile swim, a 56-mile bike, and a 13.1 marathon, half marathon. And I did that in 4.5 hours. And then I really focus more on the full Ironman distance, which is a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike ride, which I actually did this Saturday just for fun. And then I run the marathon. So those take me about 9.5, 10 hours, give or take, to do that. So start at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're done exercising about 5 o'clock. It's a full day. Wow. After Worlds, I was up actually in Bend. I signed up for this crazy race that a buddy of mine talked me into. It was called the Lead Man. So you have the Iron Man, this was the Lead Man. So this was an ultra race. It was a 5K swim, which is 3.1 miles in this lake, and then it was a 138-mile bike. And then you only had to run 14 miles. So that they took a little bit off the run, added a little bit to the bike, but it was altitude. It was 6,500 feet. We live in Texas. We don't really have that here.
Altitude.
I didn't know how I was going to really, how I really was going to do in that race. I ended up finishing 7th, which is a really cool thing. And, I got this huge belt buckle. Definitely relates to that. I almost didn't make it. I mean, I still remember getting to the 112-mile bike mark, and it was right before you had this 8-mile climb up to the top of this ski resort. Okay, and it was so funny because it was later in the day, and they had an aid station there where you get your Gatorades, your food, and things like that. And there was these 3 little teenage girls, they're probably 13 years old, that were running this thing. Okay, they didn't have a clue about what I was doing, what I was going through. And I pulled over, just absolutely exhausted, like my body was shaking, just not responding well to the altitude. And I unclip my bike, and I just kind of look at it and I go, girls, I know you have no idea what's going on right now, but I really need you ladies to tell me I can make it to the top of this mountain. I'm like, oh, Totes, you can totally make it. I'm like, thanks for the encouragement. So I'll remember that when I'm bent over at the top of this thing. So I had a couple of bananas and a Gatorade, and lo and behold, I made it to the top of that thing and ended up finishing the race. And right now I'm kind of in off season, but that's not really a thing for me. My next race is until February, and it's a race called Ultraman. Okay, so we got Ironman, we got Leadman, we got your neighborhood 5K. This is Ultraman. Okay, and what this is, it's a 3-day stage race in Florida. The first day you swim 6 miles, and then you bike 90. That's the first day, and then the second day you bike 171 miles. For those scoring at home, you can bike from here to Waco and almost all the way back to Waxahachie in 171 miles. And then that's the second day. And then the third day, you run a double marathon. It's 52 miles, 52.4 miles. It's 350 miles total over 3 days. And if you do that, you're an Ultraman. And there's only 40 people in the world that are doing this race. I'm one of maybe 4 or 5 people from America that's competing in this race. Everyone else is from Brazil, Israel, Mexico. A lot of people come from Mexico City and do the race. It's really popular internationally. The foreigners really love these ultra endurance races. I think it's just something about their culture. They love just pushing themselves in different ways, and they don't have the some of the luxuries we have here, and they are playing sports and running and cycling and swimming. That's what they do. But I'm really, really pumped about that. And the interesting thing about all this is the fact that I've only been doing this for 2 years. So I went from literally my first race was it was the MK 5K of all things.
We can do it! Which we just had.
I had just celebrated my 30th birthday, I think. This is my second year triathlon. So actually, I was my 29th birthday. I ran my first 5K, okay? And I got trophies, okay? And I got a second overall employee trophy and like a first overall age group trophy, okay? And that just fed my reward system. I haven't got a trophy since I was 8 years old. You know, growing up as a kid, I'm not the biggest guy in the world. I can understand that. And so I wasn't like the star athlete going up in high school or college or anything else, but I got these trophies. And like something lit a fire in me. It's like, I want more of these. So I can relate to the rings that I bring here, and I just get out of the way and let you ladies do whatever you need to with them. But for me, it's like, I got these trophies. And I was like, I need to figure out what I need to do to get more of these. I need to clear some shelf space. So I started running a 5K like every other weekend, and just signed up for 5Ks, and I started running. Not really knowing what I'm doing. It's like, it's running. You just run more to run. And so I was just training, and I did that. I did a half marathon, and I was going to run the New York City Marathon. I got injured. I was just pushing myself too hard. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have anyone give me direction. I was just getting out, like, I'm just going to run 20 miles. That's just what you do. And so I got injured with my ankle, and it was a pretty significant injury, but part of me is like, I don't want to lose any fitness I've gotten. So I decided I'm going to try to get into some triathlons. And so I didn't know how to swim. I couldn't swim 100 yards, okay? And now 3 years later, I'm swimming, 6 miles in a lake, okay?
Wow.
I swam this morning. I swam, 3,500 yards, which is about 2 miles, I don't know, give or take, a little under, before work, and then rode my bike during lunchtime today. I decided this is what I want to do with my life, and it was something that I was really passionate about, and I sought out people that could coach me, and I wasn't embarrassed. I was going to beginner swim classes with kids that are 10 years old. I didn't know how to swim. I mean, if someone's going to teach me, I need someone that can coach these things, and just really dove into it and submerged myself with the right people. One of my friends, she's actually the #1 rated half Ironman triathlete in the world. She just won that big race up in Canada that I was talking about. She actually won the whole thing. And I get to train with her every single weekend. Like, I surround myself with champions. And by doing that these last couple of years, that's why I've been able to go from, going from a 5K little 3-mile run all the way up to a 350-mile race, because of the people I've surrounded myself with, and the people that I've used as resources, people that have been doing this for 20, 30 years. And I share that story because there's a lot of experience in this room, and it's exciting to see these red jackets that all claim they want to be directors. We've got women here that have done it. I mean, you've got $1 million director here. You've got car driving directors here. These are women that, believe it or not, were one time sitting exactly where all of you were. You were all brand new consultants, okay? You didn't know how to swim. They didn't have anything on their books. They hadn't opened up their starter kit yet. They may have come to a couple of functions. They'd never been to seminar, but that's okay, because they took what they had and they turned it into what they have now, right? They all had the same starter kit. I love Linda Tupin when she used the example. She still has her old starter kit box. Have y'all ever seen that? She actually has her original starter kit box. And what she does is she brings it up and she pulls out pictures of the trips she's gone on and the keys that she's had. And it all came from that box. And let me tell you, the products that we have now, are y'all excited about the stuff that we have? It's phenomenal. Think about the women that were doing million before we had all this stuff. Before we had InTouch, before things were all phone orders. People were still doing these things, winning Cadillacs back then, and now you're almost spoiled. Now, I mean, we do everything for you. The InTouch is there. The products are absolutely fantastic. There's something for everybody. The rewards, if nothing else, have gotten better, and it's ultimately what you choose to do with it. I mean, no one's going to come park a Cadillac, on your driveway. No one's going to just hand you a director's suit. No one's going to give you an airline ticket to go to London next year. You've got to earn those things. But if you make the choice to do it, if you're consistent in your activity, you can get anything done. I mean, I use the example of that Ultraman race. I mean, that's a really daunting thing. And I'm going to be pushing myself like 30 hours over 3 days. And that's an incredible thing, but it's 126 days away. I know that because I have a little ticker on my desktop that's counting down to this race by the second. And I know that's a little OCD, but that keeps me focused though, because I go in every single day, I'm like, okay, 125 days, 124 days, 123 days. Next thing you know, it's going to say 10 days, 5 days. Next thing you know, I'm going to be in Florida. Next thing you know, the gun's going to go off. And I've surrounded myself now with a great coach who's actually done the distance. He's actually competed in the Ultraman World Championship in Florida, finished 8th there. I'm like, if I'm going to get a coach, I need someone that knows what it's like to bike 170 miles and get up on the 3rd day and run a double marathon. Like, I can't just go to someone locally that's never done anything like that and has no experience doing those things. But all you ladies that want to be directors, you've got the experience in the room. They know what it's like to go from being a brand new consultant, maybe even a struggling consultant, to directorship. You just can't be embarrassed to ask for that help and that support. And you got to have the energy, like I had, just to dive into the water and learn how to swim. Sometimes you just have to have that energy to dive into these things. And sometimes you psych yourself out a little bit. I mean, it would have been very, 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 very easy for me just to say, you know what, triathlon's not going to be my thing. I'll just let my ankle get better. Whenever that happens, I'll just keep running because that's simple and that's what I know. And it's very, very easy to stay in your comfort zone. I was a really accomplished runner before I actually, started getting into triathlon. That's something that would have been very, very easy for me. But I decided to push myself in a different way, and I didn't care about comparing myself to the other people. My first half Ironman race, it was my second triathlon ever. I just kind of dove into it. And it was one of the hardest races in the country. It's up in Lubbock, of all places, yay. And it's just hot and windy and dusty. And I had my little road bike with some clip-on aero bars, and everyone else has like their $10,000 bikes. But you know what? I finished my race, and I accomplished that goal. And it was something that was a benchmark for me that proved that I could, I could do these things. When I was up in Oregon at that Leadman race a couple weeks ago, I really, 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 really wanted to quit. Really wanted to quit. I did not want to push through. I was not having a good time. I didn't think my body was going to make it. But when you're in that place, if you trained yourself mentally for it, there's nothing you can't push through. I thought about my friends, my family. How would I feel if I go back home and I DNF, which means did not finish? How am I going to tell my Salesforce friends I didn't hit my goal? That's the other thing about sharing things like this Ultraman race. It keeps me accountable. When you share a goal like that and you don't do it, I mean, who would be able to stand up in front of people and tell them about the goals that they should be going for themselves when you're not finishing the goals that you put out for yourself? I mean, I'm a really big believer in personal accountability. I mean, that's a huge thing, especially when you're going for big goals. And if you're going to talk the goal, you got to be able to put in the effort. My coach gives me my plan. Like today, this morning, it had a 3,500 swim, it had an hour and 15-minute bike, and tomorrow I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to swim and jump in the pool, and then I got to run 6 miles, and then I'm going to the Mavs game tomorrow night. I got my girlfriend to take care of. Like, there's a lot. I got to take her to dinner. I got to go to the Mavs game, pick up my friends. I mean, there's a lot going on. And luckily, she's a triathlete too. She understands the craziness. But you got to find the balance. You got to make the choice. Is the reward big enough for the sacrifice? Because it is a thing that you kind of have to sacrifice for to be a strong director. It is. But it's so worth it. People get up every single day going to jobs they hate them. They get no respect, they get no support, they get no reward. They're just expected to do their job, and if they do above what their job requires, they don't get the old pat on the back. They just say, you know what, you get to keep your job. Congratulations. I had friends in the last couple of years when the economy was up and down that one time they walked in their office and their boss pulled them over and said, hey, I need to talk to you for a second. Can you come to my office? And they said, sure. And he's like, well, you know what? I got 2 things for you. I got good news and I got bad news. What do you want first? Like, oh, I want the good news first, of course. Like, okay, the good news is you get to keep your job. Bad news is you got to take a 30% pay cut. It's non-negotiable. That's just where we are. And my friend's like, well, I just had a baby. I mean, am I going to, I'm going to quit my job and then be out all of my income? They just had to suck it up and do it, and they hated it. They didn't like the people they worked for, and they were going to this job every single day and not being appreciated for what they do. And they had that glass ceiling where they can only advance so far. And in this business, there is no glass ceiling. I mean, you look at the women on stage, they're national sales directors, top directors, and again, they all started where every single woman in this room is. And don't tell me it's how they look or what their age is or what background they come from or any of those things. It's work. It really comes down to it. Directors are the top 2% of our company, and they're the top 2% because they're wanting to outwork the other 98%. I'm in the top 5% in the world in Ironman, not because of any God-given athletic ability that I have, because of just old grit and work. That's what it comes down to, that I'm willing to push myself through walls that other people aren't willing to go through, that you see people walking in races when they should be running because they hadn't prepared or mentally prepared for those things. And if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to take all the great stuff that the company has for you, all these products and rewards, materials, resources, all these things, your job when it boils down to it is really just getting in front of people. That's it. And I guarantee you, if you're willing to do those things consistently enough, you're going to come out where you want to be in this business. You know, the only way that you can fail in Mary Kay is to quit. That's the only way. If you quit, you'll never know how good you could have been with this business. And the same thing with me in a race. There's a starting line, there's a finish line. The only way I can't finish the race is to quit. That's it. Even if there's, you know, a mechanical error on the bike and I got to carry my bike, you know, that's allowed in the race. You know, it even says in Ironman in the rules, it's like you can have no propulsion except self-propulsion. You can walk, you can run, you can crawl. There's been people that have crawled across the finish line, you know, 200 yards on their hands and knees just to finish the race. There's been people that have carried their bikes on their backs 20 miles in just to be able to finish the race. It's the same requirements for everybody. It's the same time frame. You get 17 hours to finish that Ironman race in one day. You start at 7 o'clock in the morning and you get until midnight that night. And it's the same distance for everybody. And I say the same thing for you ladies. You want to be a director, it's the same requirements for every single one of you. You want to build a national area, it's the same requirements for every single one of you. You want to earn a car, it's the same requirements for every single one of you. You get out of it what you put into it. And again, I'm where I'm at in my life. I'm enjoying my career because I surround myself with champion level people. And I was bold enough just to jump into it. And that's the reason I'm here tonight, is I just want to share that with you ladies, that there's nothing out there that is beyond your grasp if you're just not afraid to jump into it. What did Zig Ziglar say? Fear is false evidence appearing real. That's all it stands for. It's a mindset that can be changed. I used to be scared to death of swimming in open water. I mean, I would just go down there and dip a toe. And now I'm the first guy jumping in, just knocking people out of my way and trying to get at the start of a race. It's that mindset has changed. I'm not scared of that anymore. So I just challenge you to, you know, share with someone, talk with someone who's where you ultimately want to be, who's someone you want to trade places with, and figure out how you can change whatever mindset you have that's holding you back. Because if it's just requirements that you need to check boxes to get to where you want to be, if you're in a red jacket, you're just a couple of steps away from being a director, what do you need to do to get that done? Are you willing to make the sacrifices to make it happen? Because if those two things match up, I have no doubt that every one of you can be a director in this room or achieve whatever you want to in this business. But you ultimately just get out of what you put into it, and that is what has worked for me, and I'm just so glad to share that tonight. So.
Woohoo! Way to go.